Karen Bonifilio, Inner Realms, Outer Journeys. We have Robin here today. Robin Brownwood. Sorry, forgot to silence my phone, which is not like me. Anyway, Robin, you want to say hi to the audience?
Hi, audience.
I got to tell you, Robin is so cool, and you are going to like everything she has to say. And I talked to her before a few times before we interviewed, and she's just fabulous. So let me tell you a little bit about her and what we're going to talk about. So right now, she owns a catering business and has done that for 16 years. And I know how hard that is, Robin, because my mom at one time had a catering business. And guess who was the hired help that didn't get paid?
Yep.
It was me. She's a combat veteran with the U.S. Army Military Police for 14 years. So I want to say thank you for your service.
You're welcome.
This is the best part. She's a self-appointed student of human behavior since birth. She's the author of a book called Audacious Authenticity, a kick-ass path to being real in a fake-ass world. Now, if you saw that on the shelf, I bet you'd pick up that book and take a look at it. And that flavor of her title is exactly what she is. She is a mountain climber, a hiker, a snowshoer, traveler, gardener, voracious reader, passionate about life, and all things food and beverage. So welcome, Robin. You are well-rounded.
Yeah, Karen, thanks. I think that's what life's about, staying curious and staying involved.
Yeah, I understand that because I'm curious about a lot of things that I think people get tired of me asking questions. So anyway, let me show you her book. This is her book right here. And look how thick her book is. Oh, and I want you to look at this right here. My dad told me to never dog ear a book. Well, I've broken that rule. And then Robin said, make sure you dog ear the things that you want to look back at. But look at all those. I have so many dog eared. It's just pretty much every chapter. Every chapter has so much information in it. So I think I'm going to ask you first, what inspired you to write a book about finding one's authentic self?
Well, it started probably around COVID, to tell you the truth, and feeling a little frustrated, like so many people, I'm sure, because we were all isolated, and we're trying to find a creative way to channel that frustration. And so I looked around and I thought, I'm going to put pen to paper. I read like nobody's business. And I'd never written a book, but I've never been one to shy away from a challenge. And so I enlisted the aid of a really good graphic designer who was already in my wheelhouse because she is the one who had done all my marketing materials for my catering business.
Oh,
and
nice.
then, she referred me to another local female business owner who has a publishing company here in town. And so between the three of us, we, I tackled this with their guidance. Took us about 8 months, but it was back and forth, a lot of rereading, rewriting, making sure the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted. I always knew what I wanted to say. I just had never said it out loud in that way. So for me, and I don't want to sound like, it was kind of easy, even for a first book. But it came together so nicely and so almost seamlessly that I've already started the second manuscript for my second book. But it was just a amazing experience. It was so positive, and I can't say enough about the two women that helped me to bring this book to publication.
Well, and I think having that circle to help you out, because the book is fabulous. I mean,
Thank you.
I dog-eared it so much, and I don't want to me, it's a self-help book, but it's so eye-opening. It's just incredible. So I don't want to ask about your second book yet. Let's finish with this one. First, how do you define authenticity? And why is that important to you in the context of this book?
Well, I use myself as a student, first off, and living most of my life, trying to be authentic, even especially when you're younger, everybody wants to fit in and be like everyone else. And I just came to realize, I don't know, at an early age that there's no way in heck I was ever going to be like anybody else because I was always either the only female, the only tall one, the only black one, the only this or that. And at some point, I just realized it was who I was, and it was on me to accept, that fact that I was the only, whatever the only
Well,
was,
you
and not,
mentioned before we started the interview that you're 6 feet tall.
yeah, oh yeah, I'm 6 feet on a good day, unless I'm wearing my heels, and then I'm 6'3". So
Oh my gosh.
yeah, yeah.
I'm 5'2". I would love some of your height.
Oh, you know what? If I had a penny for every person that told me that, I could buy my own island. I swear to goodness. I love being tall. I think it's a tall person's world anyhow. The only time I really hate it is when I'm shopping for pants. Other than that,
Oh,
I love being tall. I love it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because we can't reach things and you can. So,
Oh, that I've been used in many, many times for my height to do things like that because my mother was only 5'5" on a good day.
oh,
So
your
yeah.
dad was it your dad that was
Yeah,
tall?
I got it from my father for
Oh,
sure,
my
and I'm
father.
grateful that he passed along those genes to me.
Okay, well, kind of digress a little bit
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
So
So to me,
tell us about the
authenticity
book.
just means living your life and being true to yourself, regardless of the opinion of other people.
And I think people have such a hard time knowing who they are.
Yeah, they
I,
do. They
they
do.
do. To really get back to the authentic self, it's really hard. But one thing that about her book is you'll read the chapter and then there's exercises to do at the end of each chapter. So you can really look inside yourself and find out what makes you tick and what you really think and what's important to you. Um, that
And
was my take on it.
you know what I found actually because as I've walked and talked most of my life, and I hear a lot of stories out there. I know there's a lot of people who already know who they are, but they're too afraid to put that, real face forward for fear of intimidation, for fear of being ostracized, or even worse, depending on what it is you're hiding from. I mean, um, some people die for their, for putting their real identity out there. And I'm basically speaking about, homosexuals, people of that nature who feel like they have to stay in the closet because it is a real fear out there. There's a lot of homophobia. So, I get that. But at the end of the day, man, life is just so short. You only have this one chance, and nothing sucks your soul faster, in my humble opinion, than being afraid to do whatever it is you're afraid of. I think fear kills more souls in gold than heart disease and cancer combined. And
That's
that's,
a really good take on it too,
yeah,
because
yeah,
you're suppressing yourself.
absolutely. And when
You're
you
not.
suppress yourself like that, you lose so much of your soul. You lose so much of who you are. I mean, that's what being authentic is about.
Well, Robin, I know, and I'm not sure how old you are, but I know when we were growing up, and I'm up here in the Portland area, and you're not that far from me.
Mm-mm.
But the perfect woman back when we were growing up was bleach, blonde, California surfer girl. And that's, who we wanted to emulate, and
Right.
well, I'm not bleach blonde surfer girl, I'll tell you that.
No
And
Twiggy, right?
oh,
Twiggy was the other,
Twiggy.
right?
I think
That was another
Twiggy,
role model.
I think she started what being anorexic was and
Yep,
bulimia.
yep.
Apologies to you, Twiggy, if you're listening to this, but yeah, that was our bodies were not made to be that thin.
Mm-mm. And
Yeah.
she may have been naturally thin. I don't know, that she ever had to starve herself. I mean, some women just are naturally thin like that. And if she was able to capitalize on it, through the
Yes.
modeling industry. So no fault to her. I mean, if that's what you're born with and how you're born, you know,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
might as well use it, right? Yeah.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
unfortunately, it sends a bad message to all the other women out there who look to those sort of role models as a role model, and are still doing it. Frankly, they're still doing it. That's what I hate about social media.
Well, they are. And then in social media, people sometimes portray themselves for what they want you to believe, not what is their authentic
There's a
self.
whole lot of inauthenticity on all the social media platforms, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, there's a myriad of examples. There's just thousands of them. So, that's one of the things that I rail about in one of the chapters in my book. And I realize it's a given part of our fabric of life. We're not going to get away from it. That dike has been opened, and there's no way you're going to close it.
Mm.
But I'm just trying to encourage people to have a healthier attitude about it and less of an attachment to that, and looking in the mirror at themselves instead of other people that they want to emulate.
Right. So, what would be one tip that you would? I don't want to give away all your book, but one tip from the book. And by the way, this picture on the back is gorgeous.
Oh,
It is.
thank you.
It's
Thank you.
really
Thank you.
beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. Not that you're not now, but that picture just,
Yeah,
it's
I go through
gorgeous.
stages. I appreciate that. That was professionally done. That was another female photographer in the area who did a really good job.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm all about empowering women as much as possible. And I just think we need to support each other, as much as we can, truly.
yes.
So the tip you're asking me about,
Just
what,
any tip that you'd like to share from the book.
I mean, because the book is about authenticity, there is one of my favorite motivational speakers who is no longer with us, unfortunately, Dr. Wayne Dyer. I was listening to a tape of his. He was touring with Deepak Chopra,
Oh,
another favorite of mine, and those two were
yes.
on tour together. I happened to be listening to a tape that somebody had given me of their tour, and Dr. Dyer, Wayne was talking about his family and how he was a black sheep, and he had enough of just fighting the natural flow of things. They wanted him to be
Yeah.
one way, and he was another
Mhm.
way. And he finally decided for himself, in order to maintain his sanity, that he was going to live his life independent of the good opinion of other people. I was literally driving when I heard him say that. I had to pull over the road and I rewound and I heard him say that again and again. And I knew from that moment on that was going to be my mantra for the rest of my life. And I'm telling you, when when I did that and I was really convicted and committed to living my life in that way, it was such a weight that was lifted off my shoulders. I mean, I can't even tell you the feeling that I had. It's like I had like 20-pound weights on each of my shoulders before that. And when he
Wow.
said that, I'm like, wow, that's what I've been missing. So I took that mantra and I try to live it each day. And I try to share that message each day with people that I come in contact with, the stories that they tell me. Yeah, there's a lot of people who try to live up to other people's expectations. And at the end
Yes.
of the day, you could be the best person on the planet. Somebody's going to think you're an ass, and you could be the biggest asshole, and somebody's going to think you're the greatest thing.
Yeah,
So
that
that
does.
told me that it
Mhm.
doesn't matter what other people think. What really matters is what you think of yourself.
Exactly. And instead of trying to fit in a mold of what someone
Oh,
expects you to be and how to
oh,
be and such.
a
Yeah.
lot of expectations out there that aren't being met, and people suffer. They suffer in a lot of ways because of that. Yeah. So that's my one biggest tip.
So is it do you think it takes a lot of courage or does it take an epiphany to reach your authentic self?
That's it. Yeah. Keep talking. Yep. That's it. Yep, the courage is the big thing. And again, like I said, I think fear is the biggest thing that holds people back from being their most authentic selves because they're so afraid that they're not going to fit in the mold, that they're going to, that they're going to be ostracized, that they're going to
Yep.
be criticized, that they're going to be rejected. Whatever fear that they have of not putting their real self out there, it's there. I'm telling you, I hear these stories every single day. And, you know, when you get to your deathbed, it's going to be too late to say, I wish. Oh, oh,
Right.
I
Mhm.
wish I wish I had I wish only if I had a done this. It's like, you know what?
Mhm.
It's too late then. And so I try to live my day, each day I get up, I give gratitude that I wake up, and I realize it could be the last
Yes.
24 hours in my life. So
Mhm.
I just try to live an intentional, purposeful life each day, you
Every
know,
day. Yes.
every day, every day, every second counts.
Not just going through the motions, but living with.
Oh, no, I mean,
Yeah.
no. I'm just trying to be conscious of every breath and every second of every day. Yeah.
I imagine listening to you that when you come across people you don't know,
Hmm.
that it's probably really easy to start a conversation with you because you would show such an interest in that person that you have just met too.
You know what I get? Guys, I just got this compliment the other day again, and it was from a male, which is kind of interesting because they're usually not that cognizant of energy fields. I believe everything
Oh,
on this planet is made up of energy, and so that
yes.
was the other thing that I taught myself is that you get what you give. So I try to put out positive energy
Yep.
so that I get it back. And
Mhm.
so I, constantly
Oh
in my
gosh.
just comings and goings throughout my day, minding my business, if I have an interaction with somebody, invariably they'll say, "Man, do I love your energy?" And I'm like, "You're welcome. You're welcome, and
That's
thank you."
great.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we get what we give, and so if you want positivity, if you want happiness, if you want love, I mean, you got to put it out there. It's not going to come to you. I mean, that's just the laws of karma.
I want to read you something that I heard the other day. I think you might like this.
Okay,
It's a two-parter. The
okay.
first one, authentic love, kindness and compassion opens doors for you. Things happen magically, unexpected things, and the universe responds.
Yep.
I heard that and I thought, oh my God, that is so true. That is so,
So true.
yeah.
Universe is always, always watching. And
Hmm.
for me, I think this whole thing called life is just one big lesson. You know, everything
Yep.
happens for a reason. There's a lesson in everything. I firmly
Hmm.
believe that. And even if we're not aware of what that lesson is, it shows itself eventually in some way, shape, or form. And so, all of this stuff that you are talking about, as far as the energy and the
Hmm.
authenticity, I mean, it takes work. And I really feel that's another reason why people are afraid to be authentic because it does take work. I mean, it doesn't happen overnight and it won't happen naturally. And so I really have,
Yes.
for me
Hmm.
personally, from where I was to where I am now, and I look back and I think about how I got here. Yeah, I put in a lot of hours, but it was hours that I felt was worth it because I wanted to love me better and I wanted to be the best version of me. And by doing that, it allows me to, be my most authentic self and put my real face forward. And I had somebody just tell me again the other day, and it was a guy. He goes, "Man, you're the real deal." He goes, "You're not a fake." I mean, and so I love it, especially when men are saying that because men are, they're not that much in touch with their feelings like that.
Right.
So when a male tells me that, I know that's somebody who's been working on himself or is very cognizant of the energy that's floating around out there in the universe.
So
Yeah.
you mentioned it's kind of hard um, for people to do that, to recognize it. So
Oh
what
yeah.
can, what can we say to the people? Don't give up. Persevere. Keep doing what you learn.
Just realize that, and not to sound corny, but the truth will set you free. And
Hmm.
so, if you're, don't be afraid of the truth, no matter how bad it is, because eventually, you can flip that around. Um, and here's another thing that I've been carrying whenever I'm in that position
Sorry.
or I talk to people who, they're afraid. They're afraid of this, afraid,
Yes.
I always try to put it in perspective because whatever they're dealing with, yeah, it may be a bad situation. But then when I look at what's going on in the grander scale of things, in the grand scheme, the big picture, man, there's people out there with stories way worse than yours, way worse. Hard to
This is
believe when you're
true.
going through it.
Yep.
But there are people out there, I mean, going through just unfathomable
Yes.
situations that test every fiber of a human being's spirit
Mm-hmm.
and conviction. So when I
Mm-hmm.
encounter people who are, playing the victim or feeling sorry for themselves, or even if sometimes I fall into that trap, which isn't very, very often at all,
Mm-hmm.
I flip that script and I just realized, yeah, this is bad, but it's only temporary. I'm gonna get through this. And I realized, you know what? I got enough in me to get through it. And so, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, the work is constant. It's not like, well, I'm going to do this one day and then the next day you don't. It's like
Yes.
you have to be pretty much on point with your cognizance and your awareness and your intention 24/7. And it
And
doesn't, it's not always hard work because
right.
once you do it, it almost becomes like brushing your teeth. Such a
Yes.
natural state of mind that you,
Mhm.
you know, you wake up and you're like, oh, and you set your intention for the day and then you just go about it.
Well, and I like how you said when you notice that you just flip the switch. Just
Absolutely.
just flip the switch. Yeah.
Yeah. All these conversations we have going on in our brains, that just talk us into and out of things. Yeah. There's power in words, and you know that. There's power in words. So I like to constantly flip that script if it's not keeping me on the path of joy and authenticity, that I've set for myself.
Okay. Do you think people should release toxic people that
Oh,
to them also?
please. Let me tell you something. I was in a therapy session many years ago, and it turns out my therapist was a Buddhist. And so during that session, he shared three things. He shared one thought with me that was broken down into three things. The Buddhists believe that the cause of all human suffering, there's three things. It's judgment of oneself and others, having expectations of oneself and others that aren't being met, and then the
Ah,
inability to let go. And I'm telling you what, that was another aha moment for me in my life. I wrote down what he said because I did not want to forget it. And then I carried that with me everywhere I went, every single day. I would look at that first thing in the morning and the last thing at night before I closed my eyes. And I'm telling you, when I thought back to what he said, when you look at the cause of human suffering, you can go back to the Middle Ages or even before. When you think about it, all the suffering that humans have experienced, it's all due to judgment of others, right? Having expectations that aren't being met, and then the
right.
inability to let go of those
Right.
toxic thoughts,
Yeah.
toxic people, toxic behavior, whatever it is. So, yeah, when you ask me about letting go of toxic people, oh, yeah. If you
Yeah.
love yourself enough and that's funny you said that because I had that situation come at me just yesterday. A friend of mine was in a toxic relationship with a friend that she thought was a friend, and
Mm-hmm.
she asked me what I thought she needed to do. And I don't really like to tell people, but I just suggested because I know this woman well enough because she had been really hurting about this relationship and she did not know because she knew this woman for a long time. And
Oh,
she felt bad that she'd have to cut the ties. But I said, is it more important for you to keep her in your life and make your life miserable, or is it better for you to just cut the ties and let her go about her way so that you can have peace of mind and have your sanity back? And she just said, I wanted to do that, but I just needed to hear it from somebody else.
somebody else. Yeah.
So she says, "Yep, I'm gonna block her number, not answer her calls. I'm just gonna,
Oh, wow.
cut this person out." But because that's how toxic it was.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And
Was.
I mean, yeah, it is hard, but it's all about survival. And people think it's well, that's so selfish. Well, you know what? You have to be selfish if you want to survive. You
And
have to be.
thrive.
and thrive. Yeah,
and
you
thrive.
have to be selfish, and it's not
Yeah.
selfish because we weren't meant to be on this planet to suffer. That's not what we're not meant to suffer. I think people get stuck into those mindsets about, oh God, I'm suffering. I'm supposed to be suffering. It's like, no, no, you're not.
No.
No, that's not the intention for your presence here. And
Hmm.
so if that's what you think, then that's probably that's what you're getting. So once you flip that script and realize, no, 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 there's another side to life that I am worthy of and that I am intended for, and I'm going to find out what that is.
Right. Because
So,
everything will change.
oh,
Everything will change. Like they say, it's magical, and it really is.
it definitely is when you get in touch with your inner self and you're not afraid to face that inner truth and to share it, with the rest of us. And think just how fortunate we are when people do that. I mean, I think it
Yes.
would be such a boring world if we were all, all of us were in the closet and nobody was putting their best face forward or their real face. I mean, I really embrace differences and I embrace change, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it keeps me interested and interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a difference. I heard a phrase once that said, if you're bored, it's because you're boring. And no one wants to be bored. No one wants to be called bored, right?
Oh my God.
Right? So when I find myself, because I am such
Stop it.
a hyper type, like I love, I'm curious about everything. But when I find myself saying, "Oh my God, I'm bored," and then I realize, that's because you've allowed
You're
yourself.
boring.
Yep, yep. So if you're bored, it's because you're boring.
That's great, Robin.
There's a lot.
Oh
There's a
God.
lot out there.
I have a friend who hangs on to things since childhood, that bother her. And
Yep.
I can't say certain words because she gets triggered. And I'm
Mm,
just thinking in my head, you get something out of this. That's why you're not letting it go.
right.
That yeah, there's something out of that you're getting. So
And that's where that work comes in that we've been talking about. You got to dig deep and you got to ask yourself the why questions, the hard questions. You have to sit down and you have to actually, take the time to do that. You can't do that while you're running around, taking care of the
and
kids and taking care of this and that and the grocery. You got to just make some time for yourself, even if it's 5 minutes, and say, okay, what is the lesson in this? What is the lesson in this situation? What is the universe trying to tell me? Because it is, I mean, those are the messages, and the universe will send them in degrees of whatever they think you need to have them. They could be a soft message or it could be a
mhm.
really tough message. Depends on how badly it thinks you need to wake up,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
So yeah, when it gives you one of those, knock you on the head kind of messages, yeah, you're screwing up. You need to really sit down and shift your focus.
Well, I'm going to tell you one thing I like about your book so much,
Hmm.
and I don't give accolades unless I truly believe them.
Uh-huh.
Um, is just really succinct and matter of fact, and then I like the workbook aspect of it.
Well,
Which,
when I
yeah,
was coming up with a concept for this book with my graphic designer and my editor, yeah, we talked a lot about the concept, and we didn't want it to be a book that people would just read and then put down and then put away and then forget about. I
yeah,
mean, I wanted it to be interactive, for one thing, and then we also put a lot of thought into just the feel of it. There's those mandalas that go throughout. That was just I can't even say enough about my graphic designer. She is just so on point with the artwork in that book. The paperwork, I'm a fiend for good paper. My editor was just phenomenal in the flow and the punctuations and just yeah. So I always say it's a small book with a big message. So it
there
is
you
an
go.
easy read. Would you not say it is an easy read?
No,
Um,
you have to do the work.
yeah, you have to do the work, if you want to, and you
Yeah,
don't have to, and don't try and do it all at once.
yeah,
Take your time with it, take a
yes,
question here or there. Hopefully, and there's some uncolored mandalas in there that
yeah,
we are going to give boxes of colored pencils so that you can create your own energy, your own mandalas, because
yeah.
each color represents a certain emotion. in a certain field. And
Would you
that's all explained in the book too.
would you explain to the audience what a mandala is?
It's a symbol that God it's been used throughout the ages, and a lot of different religions, and on the book that itself. I don't know if you notice on it. Well, let me finish that thought. So mandalas are they express a sort of feeling, a sort of energy. Um, they're used in a lot of different religions, a lot of different spiritual type situations.
Yes.
I came across them before my graphic designer had inserted those, but I do a lot of yoga, and a lot of my yoga instructors would have mandalas in their yoga studios and whatnot. And so
Yes.
it's just one of those sort of symbols that, it's self-interpretive, so you'll get out of it what you see into it.
Hmm.
And on the front of that book, I don't know if you noticed, but my graphic designer had the forethought to insert my image. I don't know if you see my eyes that are that I
Oh,
right.
I
I
can.
know.
Oh
I'm
my
telling you.
God.
She is the bomb when it comes to that sort of she
Oh
wanted that sort of
Lord.
double play on the cover, and so we just kind of like how many people you think will notice that your eyes are in the image?
Robin, I didn't. My
I
God.
know. I
Because
know.
I focus on the middle of it. That's
Yep.
why.
Yep.
That's cool.
I think so too. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. Yep. It was such a labor of love. Yeah, I can't say enough about the book. I love to feel it. I love to, go through it myself. I mean, I must have read it like 150 times before it went to publication because I'm kind of anal about the English
Yes.
language and the grammar and the flow. And I really wanted it to be, I wanted it to be something that the average person could read and not feel like, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed with these words.
Well,
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
true.
So yeah, we came up with a few uncolored ones because again, we wanted
Yes,
people to
so people
interact
can
with it,
read that.
and so
That's
there'll
very
be
relaxing
yeah,
too.
exactly. Yep, yep, and as adults, we're used to having to stay within the lines anyhow. As kids, not so.
Yeah.
And
Color
well,
outside the lines.
they're your mandalas. You can color outside the lines if you want. If that's how you want to express yourself, there's no right or wrong.
I understand what you talk about that people like the feel of the book
Oh,
because I had people read my book and they said, I like the way it feels. And I
right.
never really thought about that.
Oh,
And then I touched it. I thought, yeah, I like the way it feels
I
too.
put so much thought in picking paper. I have a degree in advertising, and so one of my classes was on paper, believe it or not, and how much work and how much money goes into the type of paper that these publications would go into. I'm talking like the major publications, the fashion magazines, and all of those
Yes.
other. And so
Mhm.
I just fell in love with paper. I even took a paper making class just to learn how to make really good paper.
I think I
So
did that teaching
I
one
wanted
time.
this whole experience with this book to be to touch all the senses, not just the
Mhm,
eyes,
mhm,
but even the nose, because I like to smell a good paper, but definitely the feel. Yeah.
mhm. Now, Robin, where can people get this book?
That book is available right now on Amazon.
Um,
And yep, you just Google that. I had a couple of questions for Amazon recently, a couple customer service reps. And when they found out about that book, they're like, where can we get this book? And it was so funny. It was two of them on two separate days. I had to call customer service about something. And when they found out the title, they're like, oh my gosh, I have to read this book. And these are people from, other countries. And they're like, yes, I'm going to get this book because I love the title.
the
So,
title's awesome. Yeah, you don't
yeah.
take any prisoners, girl.
That wasn't hard. The tagline wasn't hard either. I kind of like almost edited it so that, the swearing wasn't in there. But then I thought, you know what? Nope, that's me. And
That's not
the
a
book is
bad word. That's not a bad word.
not a bad word at all. In fact,
Yeah.
no words are bad depending on how you use them. So yeah, I'm definitely not anti-swear by any means.
Neither
Just has
am
to
I.
be the right situation. It depends on the situation. Yeah.
Yeah. Robin, is there anything else you want to say about your book?
I just want people to go into it with an open heart, open mind, and open eyes.
Okay.
And, just notice all the things that you and I have talked about as far as the feel and the look, but most importantly, the message, right? It's a small book. It
Exactly.
is an easy read. You could
Yes.
read that thing in probably less than an hour if you wanted to without doing any
No.
of the questions.
Yeah.
Um, but, read it through once and then go back and then take your time, dog
Yeah.
ear it, highlight it, whatever it is that strikes you, something that you want to remember. And,
But everything did.
yeah, 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 and
You
that's what
really
I'm,
did.
I'm hoping that people will see it as a resource as they go
Mhm.
through their journey of, self-truth and trying to become more of an authentic.
Authentic. Yeah. Okay, just give us a little teaser on what your next book's gonna be about.
Well, I'm staying in the vein of authenticity because that's the only way that I know to be. And so my next book is going to be about sex.
Sex.
Yep.
Can you
And
explain a little
I
more?
can't think of a more important arena for authenticity than the sexual arena.
Oh, man, I so relate with that.
Right? Right?
Yeah, I do. Mhm.
Right?
Mhm.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm really, really excited about that one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
for
am I
sure.
now.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of research on it, but I'm telling you, it's gonna be some powerful stuff. I'm really looking forward to working with my editor again, who's already preparing her pencil in
Mhm.
my graphic
Cool.
design. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Well, let me know when it, is released, and I'll
absolutely,
get a
absolutely.
copy and then, have you back on.
I so appreciate it. Yeah, thanks, Karen. This was a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed getting to know you. Another empowered female.
I feel the same way.
Yeah,
I think the first conversation we just had on the phone, I
yeah.
was amazed at you, Robin. I really was. I was.
Yeah, the whole
I
phone thing, my voice is kind of deep, and so constantly I get mistake. I do. If I talk to 10 people a day, 9 out of those 10 will say, "How may I help you, sir?" From constantly. And so that, you know what? And my skin's not thin, so I don't even take it personally anymore. And I just stop correcting people. If they think they're talking to a man, I just let them think that. I mean, depending on the situation, I'm not trying to fool
yeah,
people, but I just get tired of like, okay, yes, I'm a
have to
female. I
correct
have a
them.
deep voice. And it
I
is what it
thought I
is.
had a deep voice till I heard you.
No, 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 no. Your voice is nice. It's a nice tonality. I have this thing about voice tonality, and if it's too high, I do have a hard time listening. But if it's just the right tone for my ears, yeah,
I understand that.
I can
Yeah,
listen all day.
I understand that. I have a
Yeah.
friend. The voice is kind of shrill, and I don't like it.
Oh, and I have one of those, and I had to get past that because she's
Yeah,
such a super person.
yeah,
Just
yeah,
super. And I'm like, okay, nope, nope, nope. No, I'm not gonna let that be a mental block. I'm just gonna, nope. And so that's it. There's that
yeah.
work, right? I had to work
Mhm.
through that, and I'm glad I did because I really like this person and she's still in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Robin, we're going to say goodbye. Is there anything
Okay.
else you want to say?
Thanks, Miss Karen. No, no, no. I'm good to go. I love this opportunity to have conversations. I hope that
We,
this book opens up more of these kinds of authentic conversations in people's homes, in bars, just across the board, across the country.
well,
Just
I'd love to have you on again sometime.
okay. Well, that's
Okay.
cool, and I will definitely keep you posted on the next
The
book.
other book, Sex. I
Okay.
can hardly wait to see what the title is. Don't get
Woo-hoo.
off. We're going to say goodbye, but hang around. Don't get off.
Okay.
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 All right.
Yep. Will
Thank you,
do.
Robin.
Thanks.